بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستاذ المساعد الدكتور أحمد حميد عبيد، جامعة الانبار، كلية التربية، قسم اللغة الانكليزية، الاختصاص أدب انجليزي. Good morning everyone. This is Assistant Professor Dr. Ahmad Hamid Awad, University of Unbar, College of Education for Humanities, Department of English. Today we will deal with second year class short story, and we will show the definition of short story and the most important elements that each short story has. Okay, first of all, we have to know something about what is meant by short story. A short story is a short work of fiction. Fiction, as you know, is prose writing about imagined events and characters. Prose writing differs from poetry in that it does not depend on verse, meters, or rhymes for its organization and presentation. Novels are another example of fiction, prose, and are much longer than short stories. Some short stories, however, can be quite long. If a short story is a long one, say 50 to 100 pages, we can call it as a novel. What makes authors such remarkable short story writers? They are true masters at combining the 5 key elements that go into every great short story. They are character, conflict, setting, plot, and theme. Now we will deal with each element separately, dealing with the definition and how far it is connected to the whole body of a short story. First, the character. Character can be said a representation of a person or thing performing traditionally human activities or functions in a work of fiction. We can find a protagonist and antagonist and static characters and minor characters and dynamic characters. First of all, what is meant by a protagonist? Protagonist is the character the story revolves around. And antagonist is a character or force that opposes the protagonist. Minor character often provides support and illuminates the protagonist. And for static character, it's a character that remains the same right from the beginning of the story up to the end. We call it static character. For dynamic character, it's a character that changes in some important way according to the way the novelist or the story writer wants. For characterization, it is the choices an author makes to reveal a character's personality, such as appearance, actions, dialogue, and motivation. And students have to look for these connections all together as clues between and about characters. As yourself, what the function and the significance of each character is. Now we come to deal with another important element of a short story, that is theme. The theme is the controlling idea or central insight. It is the author's underlying meaning or main idea that he is trying to convey. The theme may be the author's thoughts about a topic or a view of human nature. The title of the short story usually points to what the writer is saying, and he may use various figures of speech to emphasize his theme, such as symbol, allusion, simile, metaphor, hyperbole, or irony. For the setting of the short story, the setting of a short story is the time and the place in which it happens. Authors often use descriptions of landscape, scenery, buildings, seasons, or weather to provide a strong sense of setting. There are several aspects of stories setting to consider when examining how setting contributes the story. First of all, the place, the geographical location. Where is the action of the story taking place? The students has to ask him such type of a question. Then time. When is this story taking place? Is it historical period? Is it a time of a day? What type of time is there? Season, month, etc. And then we have weather conditions. Is it rainy, sunny, stormy, etc. Then we may shift into another factor, that is social conditions. What is the daily life of the characters like? Does the story contain local color? Writing that focuses on the speech, dress, customs, etc. of a particular place, for example. And then we have to know something about the mood or the atmosphere. What feeling is it created at the beginning of the story? Is it bright and cheerful, or it is dark and frightening? Now we will shift into another important factor, that is the plot. The plot is how the author arranges events to develop his basic idea. It is the sequence of events that relate to the central conflict in a story or a play. The plot is a planned logical series of events having a beginning, middle, and end. The short story usually has one plot, so it can be read in one sitting. There are 5 essential parts of the plot. First is the introduction, which means the beginning of a story, where the characters and the setting is revealed. Second, we have the rising action. This is where the events in the story become complicated and the conflict in the story is revealed. It is usually suppressed the events between the introduction and the climax. Third, we have the climax. This is the highest point of interest and the turning point of the story. The reader wonders what will happen next. Will the conflict be resolved or not? And then we have falling action. The events and complications begin to resolve themselves. The reader knows what has happened next and if the conflict was resolved or not. Events between the climax and denouement. Then we will shift into another part, that is the conflict and what is meant by the conflict. The conflict is essential to plot. Without conflict, there is no plot. It is opposition of forces which ties one incident to another and makes the plot move. So the conflict is not merely limited to open argument. Rather, it is any form of opposition that faces the main character. Within short story, there may be only one central struggle, or there may be one dominant struggle with many other minor ones. Actually, there are 2 types of conflict. First, the external conflict, and second is the internal conflict. For the external conflict, actually it's a struggle with a force outside oneself, and for the internal, a struggle within one's self. A person must make some decision or outcome pain, quiet their temper, or resist an urge. There are 4 kinds of conflict. First, man versus man. And this is the most important type of conflict. Usually man finds someone that he is struggling with. Man versus man, this is what is so-called physical conflict. The leading character struggles with his physical strength against other men or forces or nature or animals. For the second type of struggle, man versus circumstances, and this is something in classical well known. So the leading character struggles against fate or the circumstances of life facing him or facing her. The third type is man versus society, and this is what is so-called social struggle. The leading character struggles against ideas, practices, and customs of other people. The fourth type is man versus himself or man versus herself, and this is typically what is so-called psychological conflict. The leading character here struggles with himself or with herself with his own soul ideas of right or wrong, physical limitations, choices, etc. Now there is another important factor in building up a short story, that is point of view, which is defined as the angle from which the story is told. And actually it can be divided into so many types according to the narrator of the short story. The first type is what is so-called the innocent eye. The narrator can be described as innocent in case it is told by the eyes of a child, so his judgment being different from that of an adult. That's why we call it innocent. The second type is called stream of consciousness. The story is told so that the reader feels as if they are inside the head of the character and knows all their thoughts and reactions as well. The third type is the first person. Here, when the story is told by the protagonist or one of the characters who interacts closely with the protagonist or other characters. And usually here we use the pronouns I, me, we, etc. The reader sees the story through his person's eye as he experiences it and only knows what he knows or feels. We have another type, that is the omniscient. The author can narrate the story using the omniscient point of view. He can move from character to character, event to event, having a free access to the thoughts, feelings, and motivations of his characters, and he introduces information where and when he chooses. Actually, there are two main types of omniscient point of view. The first, what is so-called the limited. The author tells the story in third person, using the pronouns like they, she, he, it. We know only what the character knows and what the author allows him to tell us. So we can see the thoughts and feelings of characters if the author chooses to reveal them to us. Otherwise, we will not know something about. Another type of omniscient is the omniscient objective. Here the author tells the story in the third person. It appears as though a camera is following the characters, going anywhere and recording only what is seen and heard. There is no comment on the characters or their thoughts. No interpretations are offered. The reader is placed in the positions of spectator. Without the author, there is or there to explain. The reader has to interpret events on his own. Now, after dealing with the elements of the short story and what is meant by each one separately, we are going to apply what is mentioned just now on the way the students has to follow in analyzing a short story. So, the literary analysis, actually using elements of literature, what have been mentioned just now, is going to be applied how to analyze a short story. So students are asked to write literary analysis essays because this type of assignment encourages them to think about how and why a poem or a short story or a novel or a play was written. To successfully analyze literature, you will need to remember that authors make specific choices for particular reasons, and your essay should point out the author's choices and attempt to explain their significance as well. Another way to look at a literary analysis is to consider a piece of literature from your own perspective, rather than thinking about the author's intentions. You can develop an argument based on any single term or combination of terms listed below. You will just need to use the original text to defend and to explain your argument to the reader as well. So students have to check the following. First, the plot. As I have mentioned before, the plot is the arrangement of ideas and the incidents that make up a story. Then, foreshadowing, when the writer clues the reader into something that will eventually occur in the story. It may be explicit, it is obvious, or implied. Fourth, suspense. We have to note the tension that the author uses to create a feeling of discomfort about the unknown. This is what is so-called suspense. And then we may tackle exposition. It is the background information regarding the setting, characters, and the plot as we have defined earlier. Another important thing to be checked before going in depth dealing with the analysis of a short story, we have to look for the crisis, which is a significant turning point in the story that determines how it must end. And then we have to check out the resolution, the way the story turned out. Another important factor to be checked before going to analyze or to write down analysis of a short story, we have to know something about the figurative language, that is the use of words to express meaning beyond the literary meaning of the words themselves. Actually here, students should differentiate between what is so-called lexical meaning, that is the dictionary meaning of words, and the other important thing, that is the literary meaning, the implicit meaning behind the lexical meaning of words found in a short story. For example, we have to know something about metaphor, that is the contrasting ideas to seemingly unlike things to enhance the meaning of a situation or theme without using like and as. For example, we can say, "You are the sunshine of my life." Actually, this is a typical metaphor here. For another important thing, that is simile, actually it can be defined as contrasting to seemingly unlike things to enhance the meaning of a situation or theme using like or as. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? This is an example how to use simile. Hyperbole. Hyperbole, usually it expressed a type of exaggeration by using something or some statement. When I say, for example, "I have 1,000,000 things to do today," it's a matter of exaggeration, because usually I have no time to cover doing things like this, 1,000,000. But it is a type of exaggeration. For personification, actually it is a matter of giving non-human objects human characteristics as well. Another important thing is symbolism. Symbolism, it's a matter of giving an object a meaning just to be representative of something or an idea greater than the object itself. For example, bald eagle. It's a symbol of what? It's a symbol of American or patriotism. Another symbol, that is the owl. Usually owl is a symbol for wisdom or knowledge. If we go to colors, for example, yellow. Yellow implies cowardice or not. It means not brave as well. Another important thing we have to check in our analysis of a short story is that the tone. Tone, not tune, of how to pronounce things. Tone, it is the implied attitude towards the subject of the poem, towards the subject of the short story, and so on and so forth. Is it hopeful, pessimistic, dreary, worried, and so on and so forth? So, a poet conveys tone by combining all of the elements listed above to create a precise impression on the reader. And so did the short story writer. This is the end of our lecture. We hope that all our students can get the benefit behind. See you next lecture. Thank you.